It's extremely common for non-Calvinists to accuse us of being fatalistic. Um, but is that accusation accurate? In this video, we're going to take a look at both fatalism and determinism. First, we're going to take a look at 5 definitions of fatalism and explain exactly and precisely what it is. Then we'll move on to determinism. Please make sure you take the time to read each one of these definitions so you will be able to follow along. Now, what we've seen here in these definitions is that fate or fatalism is concerned with events and doesn't so much concern itself with the will of man. In other words, fatalism does not deny that man has free will, but rather what fatalism states is that specific events will take place or are fated regardless of the free will of man. In other words, there is nothing that the free will of man can do to stop or interrupt those events that are fated. Now, let's take a look at determinism and see if that differs any from fatalism. So what we've seen with determinism is that all things are determined. Unlike fatalism, all events are determined. All actions are determined. Thus denying the free will of man. Determinism, unlike fatalism, is concerned with what we might call cause and effect, or as Calvinists usually explain it, the means by which God accomplishes something, whereas fate is simply concerned with the end result. Determinism is as much concerned with the means to the end result as the end result itself. Therefore, we have quite a contrast between these two philosophic systems. So one more time, just to rehash this, to keep it fresh in our memory, fatalism deals specifically with events and does not necessarily include all events. And in fatalism, it does not necessarily exclude the free will of man because it's not concerned with cause and effect. Thus, you can have the free will of man and still ultimately end up with fated events, whereas determinism says quite differently that even the events or the causes are necessary for the effect or the means to an end, and likewise denies that man has free will. Now that I have demonstrated that Calvinism is not fatalism, we have seen this clearly. Where does fatalism fit into theology, so to speak? In other words, who's really promoting fatalism? As we've already seen, fatalism is concerned with events, usually big events, and it's not concerned with the free will of man. You can have free will. The events will still be fated and guaranteed to take place. Now that we understand what fatalism is, who's really fatalistic? It is my understanding that the free will theology, philosophy that's found amongst the Pelagians, the Arminians, and everyone in between, they all promote free will. And they likewise promote the idea that God's ultimate plans, or as we might call them, events, are going to take place, such as, let's say, the crucifixion, the resurrection, the return of Christ, God setting up his kingdom, the casting of the reprobate into hell, so forth and so on. In other words, they claim that despite their free will, God's ultimate purposes will stand and will come to pass. That sounds quite a bit like fatalism. Sounds nothing like determinism, which is Calvinism, but rather it sounds like fatalism. So what we've demonstrated in this video is that not only is Calvinism not fatalism, but we've also demonstrated that it is those who promote the free will theology or philosophy that are actually the ones who are fatalistic. Now, obviously this is rather ironic given the abundance of accusations that fly from those who promote free will. But hopefully this video will clear things up, and hopefully we can put an end to these false accusations. Now, whether or not these individuals will heed this video, let's keep in mind that especially after viewing this video, they are no longer, they are without excuse. They can't claim, well, I didn't know the difference between determinism and fatalism. So they're without excuse. So if they continue to promote this, this makes them a false witness. Now we all know what Proverbs 6:19 says about a false witness. God hates them. So let's see, after this video gets spread around a bit, if they continue to make those false claims, thus incurring the hatred of God upon themselves. Thanks for watching. I hope you spread this video around. Use it every time someone accuses you of being a fatalist. Thank you, and God bless all my brothers and sisters.